We're home for Kyle Madson, who joins us here from his broom closet at 95.7 The Game in San Francisco. One of the many jobs that Kyle Madson has. Of course, he's the Prince of Niners Wire and the co-host of Candlestick Chronicles. Your weekends are pretty much shot here for about the next 18 weeks or so, but are you excited? Are you optimistic for the 49ers upcoming season?
Yeah. I think the big caveat that everybody's had is as long as they're healthy, they're going to be good. Like, they were in a Super Bowl 2 years ago. Their roster is arguably better now. They should be good as long as they can keep their best players on the field. You can write that down.
It's a good strategy. It's a really good strategy.
You guys can use that one. Yeah.
Keys to the game.
Kyle, you look at this team like you just talked about. The roster, in my opinion, is loaded. I even think in the secondary, the one question mark, or I feel like the one question mark you have with this roster, it's not even a fact of they don't have good starters there. It's the depth. You know what I mean? The starters are fine. Mm-hmm. Would you say that secondary is the one and only question mark to this team coming into the season, or do they have other units that you kind of look at and like, I need to see it from these guys?
Yeah, the secondary depth for sure is the biggest issue, and that's where it comes to staying healthy. It looks like Emmanuel Mosley's not going to play, so they're already going to be down a starter on the outside. He's officially doubtful. But if Jason Verrett stays on the field, Jason Verrett played like a Pro Bowler for the 13 games he played in last year. And if he can do that, they need average play from the other side. But on the other hand, it's a lot of question marks. So I agree. That's the biggest concern. Right guard is a problem potentially as well. Daniel Brunskill was the starter there last year. He's back. I think they were hoping to find somebody a little better to plug in there when they drafted Aaron Banks in the second round, but he hurt his shoulder and he wasn't really playing well to begin with. So those two things. And then at defensive end, like, Nick Bosa's coming off the ACL. Dee Ford missed all of last year with the back injury. Samson Ebukam is a question mark in how he's going to transition to his new role as a defensive end instead of an outside linebacker. And then after that, it falls off a cliff. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not buying Arden Key. I'm at least not yet. He had a fine camp, but when he was going against starters in the preseason, he was running into a brick wall every time. So that's a little bit of a concern as well. But I agree with you, Kenny. It's that cornerback depth is, I think, number one in the list of issues this roster has.
Kyle Madson, the Prince of Niners Wire, with us here on D-Lo and KC. We talk often about the positions of weaknesses. Where's their biggest position of strength?
I think it's their running back room. Their running back room is really, really deep this year. Last year, they had guys that you'd heard of, but Tevin Coleman wasn't good last year. Jerick McKinnon wasn't good last year. It was kind of Raheem Mostert and then everybody else. This year, it's Mostert. Trey Sermon figures to play a significant role. Elijah Mitchell, the 6th-round pick, looked really good in the last preseason game. He's running hard, which was a little bit of a question because he had lost some weight. But he looked good. And then JaMychal Hasty obviously had a really, really nice preseason. So I think the running back room is going to be excellent, even if they sustain a couple injuries there. And then I like their linebacking core a lot. Like, Fred Warner's just flat out one of the best linebackers in the game, arguably the best linebacker in the game. Dre Greenlaw is a really nice will linebacker, that number 2 linebacker that stays on the field at all times. And then Azeez Al-Shire does a nice job as the Sam linebacker. And they have a ton of athleticism there with Demetrius Flanagan-Foles and Marcel Harris. Their 2 backups are converted safeties, really good athletes. So I like their linebacking core as well.
Kyle, what's the deal with Jalen Hurd and this whole his spot on the roster? What's going to go on? How long Kyle is going to stick in there to see if he can respond? What is the deal with Jalen Hurd? Because right now, to me, as much promise as he may have, as hopeful as I and other people are about what he can contribute to this team, right now it just seems like he's taking up a roster spot.
Yeah, I think they want to get – he was a 3rd-round pick. If he was a 6th-round pick, he would have been gone probably 2 years ago. But he's a 3rd-round pick. I think they really believe in his talent. Kyle Shanahan called him one of their 6 best receivers. Like, they really believe in this dude. But ultimately, I don't know if you guys have heard this phrase before. The best ability is availability.
Never heard it. Never heard it.
Okay, that's a Kyle Madson original. You're welcome. You can take that.
Great stuff.
You're welcome. No, but that's the biggest problem. He looked okay when he was on the field, at least every time he's been on the field, his rookie season and then this year. I think one of their fears is, do you remember DJ Reed, the defensive back who played here and there, and then he had the chest injury? They waived him. They put him on waivers with a chest injury, hoping that he would convert to their IR, but the Seahawks picked him up. And then he wound up starting and being really good for the Seahawks last year. And I don't think they have enough depth at receiver. They didn't have enough good receivers in camp to justify cutting Jalen Hurd or waiving Jalen Hurd and seeing him get scooped up by the Seahawks and having him be dominant for them once he gets healthy. So I think that they learned a little bit from that. They were going to have a receiver inactive probably anyways. So you keep him on the roster. He'll be inactive this week. And then they're going to put him on IR. It sounds like he has to be there a minimum of 3 weeks. See if he can get right. See if he can get healthy, and back on the field and contributing at least a little bit. If he continues to be hurt throughout this year, I don't think he gets another chance next year. But I think they wanted to give him a third season, see if he could recover from that ACL tear and contribute at least, in the second half of the year and into the postseason.
Kyle Madson with us here on ESPN 1320. Since we're talking about Kyle Madson originals, can I applaud you for 2 recent Niners Wire article titles?
Oh,
One,
boy.
Jimmy Garoppolo takes it upon himself to name himself 49ers starting quarterback.
He did.
That's when you put the facts in the headline. Also, Trey Lance gets back to throwing footballs after finger injury. This is solid
You're
work.
welcome.
Nothing's better though. We discussed this in depthly the other day. There was nothing better than your article when you communicated with your cohorts around the USA Today platform here, where you asked them to predict their team playing the San Francisco 49ers and came back with what I think of, excluding the Chicago Bears, was a 4-12 record for the San Francisco 49ers. That was including
come on, man. How did the Lions
including a Texans victory?
Okay, look. The Texans Wire editor is a gentleman named Mark Lane. And Mark Lane is a very smart person. He is really good at his job. He has a ton of resources that he uses really well. But he got on my website and with his whole chest said that Davis Mills is going to be ready by then to beat the 49ers. Like, bro.
Just by show of hands, unless you're driving, for those that are watching, listening, just show of hands. Who knows who Davis Mills is? Just put your hands up if you know who the hell Davis Mills is.
You see my hand is down?
Yes, I do. Hell, even Kyle's hand is down.
He played quarterback at Stanford. And the only reason I know that is because he became this hot name at the tail end of the NFL draft. Like, oh, watch out for Davis Mills getting first round consideration. Like, no, he's not. If he had written, hey, mobile quarterbacks have given this 49ers defense some trouble. Tyrod Taylor, pretty good mobile quarterback. He might, be able to make some things happen, force a couple of turnovers if Jimmy Garoppolo is still the starter and they sneak out of there with a win. It would have been like, all right, I mean, whatever. But he said Davis Mills.
Jesus. Come on, man. Come on.
So that's good stuff.
So that was wild enough. But look, man, anything can happen any given Sunday. But how did the Lions guy fix his fingers to type out the Lions are going to win week 1 against the 49ers?
17-16. Nail biter.
All right. So here's the case that I'll make for that. I wouldn't bet on this, but here's the case I would make for that. It's a 10 a.m. kickoff for the 49ers. 10 a.m. kickoff's always a little weird. It's a new coach for the Lions who, from what I hear talking to people who cover the Lions, the players love him. They love Dan Campbell. They love playing for Dan Campbell. So they're going to be fired up week 1. The Niners have no tape on this coaching staff. It's an experienced coaching staff. Despite the head coach being brand new, he surrounded himself with experienced coaches. It's a 10 a.m. kick. Lions fans are going to be fired up. It's their first full home game since 2 years ago. So Lions fans are going to be fired up. And Jimmy Garoppolo stinks in season openers. Like, go look at his numbers against Minnesota in 2018, against Tampa Bay in 2019, and then against the Cardinals last year. He's not good in season openers. Like he's a little bit of a slow starter. Mm-hmm. So he throws a couple of picks. The Lions get up early, and all of a sudden, it's 10-0 Lions at the end of the first quarter. I could see things getting a little dicey there. And I think, again, San Francisco ends up winning just because the talent disparity between their two rosters is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Tyrell Williams is their number one receiver. Like, that's crazy. He's their best player at that position. Mm-hmm. So the talent discrepancy is vast. They're going to be without Taylor Decker, their starting left tackle. So Penei Sewell, who struggled in the preseason, he's going to have to play left tackle. He's going to get Nick Bosa and Dee Ford and whoever they throw over there. So I think the Niners eventually pull that one out. But it wouldn't surprise me if it's a lot closer where we leave week one going like, what in the hell just happened?
I'd be surprised if we left week one saying what in the hell just happened. And like I said, I understand all this stuff about it's just one game. Anything could happen. 10 a.m. Just the old adage that the Lions, they don't know that they're not good yet. They got, hey, it's 0-0. We could do any. I understand all that. Like somebody once told me one time when I was talking about how the Niners were going to beat their team or whatever. It's like, yeah, we're pretty good too.
Sure.
That's how I feel about the 49ers. Like, the 49ers aren't going to be like, oh, we just weren't ready to play. They're fired up to get the season started too. Like, they want to make a statement too. I think I would be surprised. Not saying it can't happen, but I'd be surprised at the end of the game on Sunday, we're saying, man, Niners just didn't look good.
Yeah, and I would, like I said, if I was forced to bet $1,000 on whether the 49ers cover the 8 or 8.5 or 9 or whatever it's up to, I would probably pick them to cover because Kyle Shanahan's whole thing is like, I'm going to find your worst player and I'm going to attack him with all my best players. The Lions have like a defense full of their worst players. It's not like, oh man, there's this one linebacker who really gives them trouble. Like, no, their whole linebacking core stinks. And Jeff Okudah is probably their best corner and he stunk last year. They're not super talented. And if the 49ers can keep from committing penalties and turning the ball over, they should win by, 3 touchdowns. But like I said, weird things happen week one. There's all those kind of odd new coach, 10 a.m. kick, first game back for the home fans in Detroit. I could see where somebody could fix their fingers to type that it's going to be close.
Their fingers must be broken.
Kyle Madson with us from Odyssey Broom Closet in San Francisco. I do want to point out.
I was going to sit in Danny in San Francisco's office, but it's locked.
Oh, man, hater. And he knows we have this hit. What is he doing? I do want to point out for those who were with us last year at the start of the season, I'm not pressing buttons, just repeating stuff that Kenny said about the Cardinals last year. These are fresh takes regarding the Detroit Lions. They just sound eerily similar to the same things he said headed into week one last year.
To be fair, if the Niners don't lose George Kittle at half, they were up 10-7. They got a blocked punt that led to a touchdown, and they lost their best player. So I guess if the Niners lose their best player against the Lions, yeah, they got a shot.
Dante Pettis and Trent Taylor were the starting wide receivers for the 49ers in that game. Neither of them are on a team right now.
Ooh. That's facts.
So, like the fourth down pass from Jimmy Garoppolo went to Trent Taylor at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of things that went wrong. Trent Taylor's not good, bro.
And there's no DeAndre Hopkins on the Lions.
There's not, unless you're a big Quintez Cephas fan.
Oh my gosh! Raise your hand
on Wisconsin.
Yeah, like you could just drop a random name. Like, is that a Lions player?
Hey,
like there's your sketch.
There's your next. There's your next not Niners Wire article. You're welcome. Detroit Lion, or am I making this name up?
I've been studying this team all week, and he just dropped the name. I'm like, who the hell is that?
Detroit Lion, Lion, or Detroit Lion, Lyin.
Nice. I see. That's why you're so much better at this stuff. Like, I try to be funny once in a while through text, and it always falls flat. And he comes back.
Your perfect thing today was great. Yeah, guys. Damian made a joke when we were talking about 218 still working. I was like, yeah. And he sent back perfect with a cat emoji. I was so proud of you for that super lame joke.
Kyle's a big cat guy. Awful. I hated myself. I showered immediately. It was just terrible.
Like I said, embrace the corny, and then it's no longer corny. Just be self-aware. You can never do anything wrong.
That's how I feel. I had Julio Jones as a running back for the Dallas Cowboys earlier. I mean, you just run with it. You just go along with it.
Yeah, it's been there though. Been there.
I asked Kenny this earlier, so I'll ask you: are the 49ers primarily, or do you think the 49ers will primarily be a running team this year?
Yes. Even more so if Trey Lance plays. They're going to run a lot.
Oh, okay.
They invested two draft picks in running backs after doing that 0 times between 2018 and 2020. They traded up to take a running back in the 3rd round in Trey Sermon. And then they drafted a second one in Elijah Mitchell in the 6th round. And they signed Wayne Gallman. Like they brought back Jermichael Hasty and had him playing a significant role in camp in the preseason. Like they wanted to revamp this room because I think the plan is once Trey Lance is in, you're going to see them run a lot. Not because he's an incapable passer, but because of what Kyle Shanahan's going to be able to do. I mentioned he's really good at saying, I'm going to put my best player on your worst player and we're going to take advantage. Well, when he can do that with a quarterback that can run, now all of a sudden a linebacker's eyes are following Deebo Samuel across the formation pre-snap, and then the ball gets snapped. Okay, now he's got Raheem Mostert to take care of. Okay, well now Trey Lance is running out the backside. Who has the ball? Like it's going to be a nightmare for defenses to defend. And we saw it in the NFC Championship game in 2020. If Kyle Shanahan doesn't have to throw the ball to beat you, he's not going to. He wants to run the football, and this team is built to run the hell out of the football.
Speaking of running the football and protecting the quarterback, any feel on how Mike McGlinchey looked in this training camp? As this is a huge upcoming season for him.
Yeah, so Joe Staley was on our podcast on Candlestick Chronicles, and he is really close to Mike McGlinchey. Talked to McGlinchey a lot, and the way he framed it was McGlinchey was trying to be too perfect. And when he would have a bad play, it obviously sticks out like a sore thumb when you're a tackle and you miss a block. It stands out really bad. What doesn't show up is all the stuff he allows them to do in the run game because he is objectively a really good run blocking right tackle. And I mentioned the 49ers want to run the ball. But Staley had mentioned that McGlinchey is getting away from that trying to be perfect and just trying to get the job done. Where if he has a bad play, he's not going to let it compound itself into more mistakes. So I don't think McGlinchey's ever going to be a dominant, like all pro right tackle. And I think that, 15 years down the line, we're going to look and go, number 9 for that guy. But that said, if he can be an average pass blocker, he's always going to be an above average to elite run blocker. So I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to wind up earning an extension, even if there is a hiccup here and there in his pass blocking, because like I said, he is so good as a run blocker. And in theory, having a more mobile quarterback like Lance will cover up maybe some of those mistakes on the offensive line.
I love Trey Sermon, man.
He's a good player.
As Kyle Madson would say, I'm a big Trey Sermon guy.
Huge Trey Sermon guy.
Yeah, I think he's. I told Kenny that I think he winds up being the primary running back. Meaning, I think he winds up getting more carries than Raheem Mostert.
I could see that because he's more of a he's Deebo Samuel as a running back. Exact same build, exact same running style. It wouldn't surprise me if at the end of the year he has more carries than Mostert, but Mostert is so explosive. And he turns he's the reason the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan don't have to necessarily throw the football because he can create those chunk plays on the ground. Like he gets the corner, he gets north to south, and he's fast enough. He breaks tackles, and he can turn what a lot of running backs, maybe have 10, 12 yards. He turns that into 40 or 50 yards in a touchdown. Wow. And that's just something that not anyone else can do. I actually think Elijah Mitchell might get there eventually. But this year, Mostert's going to be that guy. But Damian, to your point, I wouldn't be surprised if, 2nd and 2, it's Trey Sermon. Or goal line carries, it's Trey Sermon. Because he's going to be that kind of more between the tackles, hard-nosed runner. Not that Mostert can't do that, but when you have another younger running back with fewer miles on him, you can use him, you're going to do it.
Raheem Mostert, I know in that third preseason game, it was the Niners 1s against the Raiders 2s and 3s or whatever. Well, but it looks different when Mostert starts running the football. Like exactly. it looks different. Now, me and Damien agree that I think Mostert is good for 12 to 15 carries in a game. Once you start getting past 15 carries, it could get dicey. He starts to break down and things of that nature. And that kind of goes to what you were talking about last year because the running back group wasn't as strong as it looks like it may be this year, he had to take on a bigger load. And that's just not who he is. It's probably why he was on 8 different teams or something like that. Cause he can't do that. He's a Porsche. You don't take the Porsche to go take stuff to the Goodwill and haul things around. You just take the Porsche out when you want to be flying flashy. And that's what Raheem Mostert is. Now, when you talk about that running back group, I want to talk about that again. Does it get more complicated when Jeff Wilson possibly comes back?
I wouldn't say complicated because if it's complicated, that means they have a fully healthy running back room in week 8 when he's kind of project 8, 9, 10. By the middle to end of the season, it means they have a fully healthy running back room, which they will take. And if they have to squeeze Jeff Wilson Jr. in there, they will. But I don't think that would be a huge problem because it's like, hey, here's a running back who had a really nice year last year with fresh legs to insert into the lineup, late in the season when a lot of guys have tired bodies. And at that point, like I said, let's assume everybody's healthy. You're going to know who's productive and who's not. And if everybody's productive, okay, you figure it out then. But the chances that they have 4 guys who are all playing, who are all super productive and are all healthy is pretty slim. So maybe it gets a little dicey at some point, but I don't think we're going to see Wilson until end of October, maybe into November or possibly later. And like I said, by then, it's just the nature of the NFL. You're not going to have a fully healthy running back room with 4 guys playing at a high level at that point.
So we'll ride on this one, Kyle. I asked your man Chris Biederman yesterday. Chris, of course, joins the show all of the time here on ESPN 1320. I asked him if he thought Trey Lance was going to start a game this year. I ask you, is Trey Lance going to start a game this year?
Yes, because I don't have any reason to believe that Jimmy Garoppolo can play 17 games.
Okay.
That's it. If Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy, I think he starts 17 because I think the leash is going to be longer than we think it is. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be. He throws a pick and it's done. Lance is a starter now. I think the leash is going to be relatively long. I really think that Lance is not as ready as they would like him to be, and I don't know how much more ready he's going to be able to get throughout the course of the season. I think they want him to have a whole season. Get him those, 5, 6, 8 snaps a game, however many it is, and then give him another full off season to absorb the playbook, to get some workouts in, to get bigger, to get stronger, and then go into next season as the QB1. But every piece of evidence we have says that Garoppolo is probably going to get hurt at some point, even if it's for a game or two. And at that point, they would absolutely turn to Trey Lance. They're not starting to Nate Sudfeld. So, I would say yes, but not because of performance from Garoppolo.
Interesting.
Real quick, Kyle, in 10 seconds or less, I got yes or no questions for you. Number 1, is Trent Sherfield a real player, a real baller?
Yes.
Number 2, Javon Kinlaw, do we see him week 1 and is he healthy? Okay.
Number 3.
Yes on Sherfield, no on Kinlaw.
You want to come back here next Friday?
I guess.
Number 4, you want to come back here every Friday?
Yeah, I'm in here.
Number 5, you want to be part of the best Niner coverage in Sacramento?
Yeah. As long as I'm here on Fridays, I will be. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, my man, Kyle Madson, Niners Wire, Candlestick Chronicles, 95.7 The Game.